Does everyone experience death the same way? The question that I had earlier and that I answered about what happens to us immediately after we die seems to be universal. That said, I've primarily only worked with folks who are dying or have crossed in the US. So while I've had clients all over the world, I haven't necessarily gone through that death process with them. I'm going to give you an example. I had a mother in law, she was Catholic, and she had made a deal with her husband that she wouldn't move forward to whatever comes next until after he died. So she was waiting for him to die. Her initial after death experience resembled purgatory because that's what her strongly held belief was. She strongly believed in the idea of purgatory. And so that's what happened to her right after she died. She had that experience. My grandmother, on the other hand, when she died, being Adventist, who does not believe that there's consciousness after death, could not accept for decades after she died that she was dead. There was no possible way for her to wrap her consciousness around the fact that she was still, some part of her still existed after she died. And so she couldn't accept the fact that she was dead. So that brings up a really interesting follow up question then. Is everyone's pre death or immediately dead experience the same worldwide? I don't know that. I would love to find out. Hospice workers report a really interesting phenomenon that I believe they call visitation. Within 72 to 48 hours, I believe, of a person actually dying, they begin to have conversations with and see people that have died before them, family members, friends, even pets. They'll have conversations with these folks. They are visible to them in a very tangible way. They often can't tell the difference between the people who are living and the people who have crossed that are in the room at the time of their death. I don't know if that's universal. I don't know if that is only something that happens for people who believe in an afterlife. Like, for instance, I don't know if my grandmother had that experience. I wasn't present at her death, so I don't know if that was something that she experienced, knowing that she didn't believe in it. My mother, when my grandmother died, also Adventist, but she was raised Catholic. After she died, my mom had a very vivid dream about my grandmother. They had a rocky relationship, and in this dream, my grandmother made amends. She visited her, she apologized for the things that she felt she had wronged her for, and that was the last time my mother saw her. My mother had such a hard time coming to terms with that dream. And it was really upsetting for me because knowing the energy that it took for my grandmother to make that visitation to her, to set her mind at ease, anyone else would have found that so reassuring and so healing. And my mother thought it was a trick of the devil. So perspective does play a part in how we experience death. What I've noticed is the clients that I've had who have died, who have very strongly held beliefs about the afterlife. My grandmother, who didn't believe that there was life after death. My mother in law, who believed that purgatory is what happened after we die. Atheist friends who don't believe there's anything after we die. That does seem to impact what happens to us immediately after we die. So I talked about how we go behind that frosted glass area that I'm not allowed to see and that no one answers my questions about on the other side. That doesn't happen necessarily for people who don't believe it's a possibility. The people that I see move through death process the fastest and most efficiently are those people who don't hold a strong belief about what happens when we die. They're open to whatever it is that comes next. That's a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing to just say, I don't know. I don't know what happens when we die. We're going to take that adventure like we did every day of our life and just live it as it comes. There is something that happens after we die. I am absolutely convinced of that. It's not my job to convince anyone else. It's not my job to help my husband understand that there's life after death. He's an engineer. In his mind, this is it. I wish I could share my deep-seated experiences with him as a skeptical, logical person so that he could see all of the things that I've seen that support the potential that there is life after death, my belief that there's life after death, based on my subjective experience. But I can't do that, and it's not my job. It's not my job to change your mind. I'm only sharing my experiences because there are so many of them. And because there are so many of them, that lends credibility to me that there is something actually going on here, that it is not all in my mind, because these aren't experiences that I'm having independently. These are experiences that I'm having with other living people, interacting with the dead that they have lost, who I never met. I have no way of knowing them. Don't know what they look like, didn't know what their experiences were, didn't know the things they like or what their relationships were. So the fact that is a blind situation that I'm going into gives it so much credibility for me. But that's just my experience. I don't expect it to be everyone's. That said, getting back on topic, I do believe that what we strongly believe at the time that we die does affect our ability to move forward. The timeline that we move forward on, the experiences that we're open to once that happens, and our ability to get to that coveted behind that frosted glass debrief where we can start to understand and put behind us this life and then be able to move on to whatever comes next. It's all such a fascinating process.